Vijay Shekhar Sharma is one of the most widely tracked CEOs today, a nation of entrepreneurs inspired by his rise from a small town in UP to heading a company with 10,000 crores in GMV and 100 million users. Vijay founded 197 soon after college, a white pages of sort which evolved into a payments company, Paytm, in 2011. With the first mover advantage, he is already the biggest player in the space with an 80% market share and the backing of big-time investors like Alibaba. And now with the payment bank license from the RBI, he's set to take things to the next level. Vijay is creating a new entity of which he owns 60% and Paytm will own the rest to separate the e-commerce and payment business. We talked to Vijay on why the separation and how the two converge and try to understand his vision of an ecosystem that he says will soon be the benchmark in e-commerce. Vijay, thank you so much for joining us. I want to kickstart with the biggest milestone that you've actually reached so far, and you're in fact one of the first Indian companies to do this, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you. And I think 100 million users for Paytm is one of that milestone here. When we started, I used to talk about American companies, some of the Chinese companies, those in the world would quote 100 million users. And my expectation from me was that when some things get created, hopefully it's that big that we can even quote an Indian company has 100 million users. So lucky to have that.
Absolutely.
And I think it worked out for us till now. This journey got started.
It's only just got started,
yes.
I agree, but we want to know the story, Vijay. We want to know how things really shaped up. You started off, of course, as a recharge option, really, mostly. How did you evolve? How did things move step by step?
So, I remember that 2010-11, that is a time when smartphones and 3G happening in this country, and we were trying to build something for smartphone generation, and the country didn't have any payment system.
Right.
So we thought that the payment will be a fundamental need, but payment is a two-sided industry, consumer and merchants. Now, tons of people have tried building it. Many people came, tried building payment systems, but Paytm, when we started, we said we'll build a consumer-focused play, get the consumer first on the platform, and then bring the merchant. And that is why we brought consumers first with one use case called mobile top-up. And because that was like a ubiquitous need for everybody. And we built first on a mobile platform. So we became the mobile-first mobile recharge platform, and that started our journey.
Okay.
Once we started from there, then we said let's add more digital goods categories like bus tickets and so on. And then we launched the mobile wallet, and then we got 100 million, and then we
So you make it sound so easy. But let's go back to the beginning. Was it as easy as it sounds? Because it was a new market, convincing customers to come online, really gaining traction, and there were a lot of others who caught on very quickly as well. So how did you manage to stand out?
I think the secret of a big business success, I always believe, is one small clear success of a use case. So you want to have a product which is used by many, and we were very clear always that if we can serve our customers, and we have this magic number called NPS, it's called Net Promoter Scores.
Okay.
In this world, a Net Promoter Score is a way you identify how's your product, because this is a rating that consumers give, that will I recommend my product to someone.
Okay.
So Apple expectedly would be the world's top NPS score, 80. And I wanted to not build the largest platform, I wanted to build actually the most highest NPS product out of country. So with that kind of focus that consumers will be our brand ambassador, we were bothered about that. Customer care was very tricky issue to solve, and then technology platforms were messy, and customer expectations were messy. Actually, customers didn't really trust online platform. Payment first? No, they didn't want to do that.
Exactly. So what held you in good stead, do you feel? Tell us a little bit about your background as well. Was it the technology strength? Was it also having a good sense of what consumers wanted? What do you feel really worked for you?
So
personally.
Well, I think I have a strong urge that I personally should be identified being someone who created something worthwhile for this country. If it is payment infrastructure that I can create, I wish that the legacy goes with that.
Right.
So with that kind of aspiration, I never looked at a short-term benefit. we were fine if it is tough, long, daunting journey. And I would polarize my team, tell my team that, look, it is not the early success that matters. It is how long-term success that matters, sustainability and winning.
But you always had the idea from the beginning, or did it evolve over time?
It did evolve over time. There is no doubt about it that no Eureka movement can tell you what the end result will be.
And the market changes too, right? And you discover possibilities.
Yes.
Right?
So when I started, it was very surreal actually. I was in Hong Kong and had gone for listening Asian tech leaders, and I happened to listen to Jack Ma there and learned about how Ali's ecosystem, Taobao, Alipay, is impacting China economy. And it was incredible to hear him in person. This is like 5 years back. So when I came back, I said, if Alipay and Taobao and Alibaba system can change so much of China, India will need something like this, but it'll need something on the mobile, and it has to be differently approached. And that is how the seed got generated, and then started from recharge to the payment to the marketplace to the commerce. This is the journey.
And that's exactly what I want to talk to you about next, because the game has changed and you are now trying to create an entire ecosystem, isn't it?
Yes.
Talk to us about that. What is the kind of model you're looking at? How important the entire online-offline integration is also going to be to this?
There is no platform that has dominated the commerce yet in the country. Certain number of consumers have learned the online can happen, mobile can happen, and many times over large number of audiences pending. So we've learned that a lot of companies have spent way too much of money versus playing longer. So we find our runway journey started, and I see them landing on runways, coming back, sort of their life cycle journey back. And our plan is that we would play long by partners and ecosystems, so that our scope is very precisely a technology only. We are not a retailer in any sense whatsoever. In fact, we will enable every other retailer, whether traditional or online only, to sell to the consumers, and that is what our approach would be.
So in order to do that, you've also been making a whole host of acquisitions, correct, or investments in other startups. Which are the areas where you're seeing opportunity?
So when we look at ecosystem, you exist because something else exists together. That's the difference between an ecosystem or a standalone play. So for us, there is a merchant ecosystem and there is a consumer ecosystem. So considering that we want to build a sizable 1 lakh crore ecosystem in next 4 or 5 years, so logistics, warehouse, or courier, or catalog, or order processing, or merchant training. Now, we don't want to do it ourselves. We don't want to build warehouses, because if we start building warehouse, we can build 10, 20, 30. But if we build partnerships, we can build tens of thousands of those. Now, this is where we invest, support, and we are fine if somebody else needs money to do this, we'll put them as the equity investment. So instead of acquisition, investment approach.
And this for the consumer is also reflecting, of course, in terms of the variety of options they're now going to start to get. More and more reason then, of course, to go in for a mobile wallet.
Correct.
Okay, so in that context as well, where are you finding traction? Give me a couple of examples of pivot points or you know, places where you've seen scale really build up.
Correct. I think we found out the need versus demand. This is the sort of gap in consumer life. So need is whatever I have to do and you can make my life easier. Demand is when we are telling them you could buy something, get something in comparison to what otherwise is also a fairly sustainable model there. That point of time the demand of user experience, trust, etc. comes. I'm going to share some example of that side.
Okay.
We launched bus tickets, and in this country bus tickets was sort of a already existing sizable market. We were newbie who couldn't have acquired customer base, but we in 4 months time became number 2 guy, and I don't know whether we are number 1 right now, but I know this for sure. In cities where people do not do Google search, book tickets on Paytm.
Really?
Google told us that you are getting more bus ticket booking from the cities where not even bus ticket search query comes. So people are trusting Paytm right away because it is an option there. And I think that's the true, as you said, pivot point for us. People are trusting us, they're putting faith in us. Can we add a few more categories there?
While big online retailers like Snapdeal have now been reaching into the payment space, Paytm has also been active on the retail front. Players like Alibaba have invested in both, and industry watchers are keen to see which model clicks and whether or not there's room for both. I also want to understand, of course, your USP or your backbone is a bit different in terms of how you're approaching the market, but there are some of the other bigger players who are trying to get into a similar space. There's starting to be some overlap, right? How do you plan to fend off competition? I know that you're going to say we have our strategy intact and so forth, but it's a huge market, agreed. But do you think that there is enough scope for so many players?
So, first of all, whenever a competition starts to do what you do, you sort of get extra validated. Okay. First validation comes from consumer, and second validation comes from that even your competition is thinking what you're doing. So for us, it's a flattery that our peers start doing that. That said, I think there is a lead only that matters. We're talking 100 million users. The nearest guy is 1/5 or lesser than that. Now, the only reason that we will exist will be that our offering to our consumers is superior and brings more value than other people are. So my approach is being not of them. So I think that online sellers today, online shoppers, marketplace, e-website, whatever you say, they mostly sell electronics items. There's 70-80% of goods sold are electronics. Right. On Paytm, 95% non-electronics things sell. Okay. So we talking about 10,000 crore of GMV with 95% of not electronics, while those guys are talking about 70 to 80% being electronics. Right. So the approach is not of them. Okay. So instead of fighting them, I believe they are focused on one success line item. The true success is much bigger. Let's aim for other things while they're busy doing their thing.
Vijay, you know, I get a sense from you, you're so real, right? And that's what a lot of people have said about you in the past as well. When they meet you, we can see it today. I mean, this is your desk, isn't it?
This is my desk.
This is your desk right in the middle of the office. You're very accessible, and you seem to have that beat. You know, you seem to know what people want. Would you agree? Do you feel that in terms of your personal strengths and how you've been able to approach this entire thing in your conversations with your investors, what really worked? What clicked?
I think there is a perseverance and passion towards doing what has to happen, and that's very real. I think we're not faking because somebody else is doing it. We wanted to do it, that is why we're doing it, and we are genuinely interested and sincere about it. Right. I think that is what matters. There's an Amazon model, there is an Alibaba model, and one thing I'm very proud of is that...
And then there's the Paytm model.
There's the Paytm model.
197, of course, went through the first 5-6 years, which were, you know, a lot of doing the grind and so forth. But you as an entrepreneur actually started a company just before that as well, just when you got out of college.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I'm a Delhi College of Engineering student, and I'm talking about 98 when I came out. Internet was happening. Mark Andreessen, Netscape, Sunil Lulla, or I think India.com. Those are the days that I'm talking about. IndiaWorld.com I'm talking about. And we built a content management and search company, which we sold in 1999. So came out of college, built a company in the college days, came out of college, in 1 year we sold that money. Me and 4 of our friends, we made some cool money. And once you've tasted, let's say, a little more money than you need, you're not satisfied by that. I think you upgrade to a Maslow's hierarchy called I want to do something worthwhile. So I started 197 with a single-minded and single intention that using the mobile in 2001, we're going to build a large scalable company out of this country, and that is how 197 started. The first 10 years, I raised Series A in 2007. Till that time period, we were running on my personal money, some debts, and customers' money. And once we got in 2007, when we raised Series A, we were 11 crore of revenue and 4-5 crore of EBITDA that year. And in 4 years next, we were 20 times this, 220 crore revenue and 100 crore EBITDA. 2010-11.
So didn't you have any points in those first few years where you were worried or doubted the model or yourself, or just wondered if, you know, perhaps this was the right way to go?
No doubt about it. It was tough. My family sort of a lot of time gave up on me, including told me that you need to get married, my wife, and get a job, get a life.
It seems to be priority, right, for Indian family.
And I kept dodging them, if you see. And I had a mission statement clearly identified in my mind, and I had a clear picture that there is no return. Right. There is no alternate whatsoever. Tina factor. So I think that worked for me, because whenever there used to be a challenge and doubt, I used to say this will pass. again will be a better day, there will be a better opportunity. And I believe in long term, there is better for those who work hard. I think so. Whenever there is too much of challenge, I say let's put down our heads and keep working harder.
Right.
Someday, one day, we will find what is a way out. But right now, let's keep work hard.
Okay, so what is the next target once you've already reached 100 million? It's a big milestone and you just reached it.
Look, let me tell you, the journey is continuously journey only because whenever you reach a milestone, you raise the bar.
Yes.
And the raise the bar movement comes only when you reach the previous one. Today, if you see our office in our conference room, it very clearly says 500 million Indian will be brought to the mainstream economy by us.
Right.
And that's our vow, that's a game. So we're talking about 500 million Indians by 2020. And today we are in the range of 10,000 crores plus kind of run rate. And I think by 2020 it will be very comfortable to say 1 lakh crore of that number.
So talking about detractors as we were earlier, Alibaba in its recent earnings, for instance, just of course did see a huge loss in market value coming in there. Questions being raised now as to whether or not that model is sustainable, has that growth tapped out, and of course fine, it's a Chinese market, there are other factors at play there. But do you take note of that? Do you also look perhaps what possibly one could learn from that model and from the fact that they are having to deal with difficult times today?
If you look at what Alibaba does in China is a paradigm of commerce where it was different than what Amazon did in US. So there's an Amazon model, there is an Alibaba model. And one thing I'm very proud of is that...
And then there's a Paytm model.
There's a Paytm model. One thing I'm very proud of is after every 10 years comes the next model. And we are making a Paytm model out of India.
So Vijay, are you now profitable given the growth trajectory that we're seeing? And where is the growth spurt really coming from, in which parts of the business, and which ones are you really working on developing? Because you've had funding pouring in as well. So where is it going?
So we internally run 3 businesses: marketing, payments and commerce.
Right.
And marketing vertical is profit generating. It generates like 100 plus crore profit every year. And
that's pretty big for an online space.
It is. I think we are lucky, and we are one of the few companies in this country who make sizable money in that space.
And it's growing as well because you've got InMobi tie-up as well, and Myth. And
we believe that marketing will be the wherewithal of this business. When you look at commerce, the hidden revenue will be made from marketing, and payments is where we are sort of leading the pack. We big marketplaces where we are spending the money. So next 5 years, our budgets are about 5,000 crores.
Okay.
And we were profitable last year, and before that we were always been profitable. But this year we will not be profitable because this deficit is where we are spending money in growth.
Okay.
So consumer growth, marketplace growth, and the ecosystem build up. These are the things that we are spending on.
Okay. There are now so many investors, right, in Paytm. Does that make things messy? I mean, how do you really account to everyone? How do you make sure that everyone's views are heard?
I think I can be one of those rare entrepreneurs who can say that one of my investors not been investors, he's been co-founder for Paytm, and I'm talking about Ravi Abdusomali from Self Partner. So both of us owned about 80% of this company together before this round of funding that we took from Ali, and we sort of work in tandem, and I'm very proud and very honored to have that relationship. So with 2 of us, now there is a third major investor if I put in Ali, Alipay, Alibaba family there. Now the intention here that what I see is that I don't think that we're going to create let's say a museum of investor or a list of investor if you will. And we're not going to do many rounds of investments either. Paytm got Series A. We would close sometime soon Series B. Hopefully that happens, and that's it. Nothing else.
Okay.
So we're not talking about large number of investors here. We're talking about same set of family of people who are there, been there, and only one extra set. On
that note, let's take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll get chatting to Vijay about his other investments and also what he feels entrepreneurs today should be doing. Stay tuned. Back in a moment. So we're sitting in one of the several cozy meeting rooms that are all over the floor here in the Paytm office. Vijay, branding is a critical part of your growth story, and we're realizing this more and more with things like the mega deal with BCCI. Tell us what the strategy is there.
Being in India, we have to target the youth, and I believe for youth there is nothing better brand than an aspirational brand. We don't want to be cool, funky, young brand. We want to be aspirational brand where youth wants to be. So to do that, we sort of put our brand values on sincerity, aspiration, perseverance, and I think those all come when you talk about sports. And no better sports than cricket. It's no-brainer sorts.
Absolutely. So, is there a huge emphasis also on now spreading the word in terms of your own advertising, making sure you're visible even physically to people in outlets and things like that?
Yeah. If you see, wallet works when you can add cash to it. And right now we were primarily online. Now we are adding like 1 million points where you could add wallet cash to the wallet.
Okay.
Now when we talk about million, we talk today as less as like 50,000 of those points. So that journey will allow us to get into large number, and then all those places will place these hoardings.
Right.
My expectation is that if we can distribute our wallet like matchstick distribution, like wherever you can buy a matchstick, you can get wallet added money. That is what we want to do.
So what are some of the trends that you've noticed, when you're interacting so much with youth and trying to tap the market, whether it be geographically, whether it be in terms of retail trends, what is it that you feel people want right now?
So I think the great Indian middle class that we used to envisage for so many years finally have got phone in their hand, finally got the internet in their hand. So they are coming on the internet, trying out new things. What we've seen is that consumers are okay trying out new things. This is a very positive trend. Spendings have increased thanks to the money that is coming in this country, so people are having a little bit of disposable income. And then I think all the e-commerce companies in the world are putting tens of thousands of crore of funding to the consumers. Yeah. What else is happening? We're discounting it for consumers to try out. Yeah. So the trend that we're seeing is that earlier, if we used to assume that this is happening in metros, it is now happening bigger in non-metros. So it's bigger. The consumers' demand for those things which they don't have access to earlier in those physical markets is now that I want to access it.
Okay. Is that sustainable though, when you're talking about discounting, when you're talking about making things accessible? Is there a plan in mind that, okay, in a few years from now, once we go through that growth phase, we'll turn things around, we'll have the pricing power? Or do you feel that over time, as you said, because you're gaining revenues from other streams, that things will even out anyway?
No, not really. I think discounting is a very myth that it will continue for long, because there is no doubt about it that all of us needs to get revenues. What you could not figure out is that there is always a discounting, but not on the things that you want. It will be on the things that wants to be pushed. Yeah. So it'll get smarter in a sense. Yeah. You still will hear the big sale percentage, 100% cashbacks, all those things, but only on certain items which merchants wants to push.
Okay. You're also making several investments in your own personal capacity and as an angel investor. So tell us what appeals to you.
Well, I think there is no doubt about it that this sort of tailwind that is coming from commerce in mobile internet is giving birth to so many interesting startups in this country that I wouldn't have imagined 5 years back. It was sort of a bane to start a startup, versus today it is a fashion and fad to start a startup. I think thanks to the commerce, everything that does transaction, discovery, local, cross, global, all those plans are going on. So the attention of everything that you do in physical world, converting that into the app world, is called O2O, offline to online, is what is moving very fast.
Okay. Any entrepreneurs out there that you feel have a lot of potential from the ones that you meet? What is it that you look for, and what is the kind of advice you'd like to give them?
So whenever I meet an entrepreneur, I want to see the story. Why is he doing it? If there is an inherent reason they're doing it, do they have a real need, passion for it, or is it just a passing fad that they are in it? And I have exactly the same advice that I could give will be that just don't do it just because it is fad. Try finding the real reason that why do you want to do it. So whenever this high tide will go, you would still be at it, because the true movement will come much later, not right away.
Right, Vijay. On that note, thank you so much for joining us on E-Ink. It was so great to meet you and chat to you today. And we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's all from us this week. Thanks for watching.